Well, here's a curveball today. Ken-Flo's going to lead on 2 of the final 3 fights, including
here we go.
Feature bout at bantamweight, Ken-Flo, and it deserves to be featured. Adrian Yanez minus 180, Rob Font plus 155. So Font, number 6 in the world, need guys like this, right? Putting their ranking on the line and doing so as an underdog against the 12th ranked Yanez. Font certainly motivated right now. That's never an issue for Adrian Yanez, who is 29, 5-0 in the UFC, and going for a 10th straight win here. Ken-Flo, great fight. Rob Font, Adrian Yanez. We need a pick unless you want to abstain.
This fight is spicy, kid. I love it. I love this one. You know, a great fights, you need 2 guys that are willing to go at each other. You need 2 styles that collide, that create this great fight. And I think we definitely have that here. Yanez has an awesome dance partner in Font. He loves to move forward. Both these guys extremely technical, good head movement. They throw all the weapons that you can throw in a fight on the feet. I think that Font will probably have an advantage on the ground. I wouldn't be surprised to see Font try to mix things up and put Yanez on his back. I think that would serve him well here. Although Yanez is good at, being defensive down there and getting back to his feet. But I think Font with his submissions is going to be a little bit more dangerous. And I think control-wise, it would be wise to do that, kind of eat some clock, take him down there. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I think Yanez has an ability to kind of drag you into these exchanges on the feet. And when Yanez throws, he'll throw 4, 5, 6 strike combinations that are just phenomenal to watch. I'm always in awe when I see that kid. He has proven his toughness. He has proven his conditioning. I think Font has as well in a lot of ways, right? Font is as tough as they come, but he does have some miles on him at this stage of the game. If he's able to go out there and execute and hit some takedowns, I think Font can win this. But I think a fresher Yanez, a Yanez who's able to kind of lull Font into these exchanges and have the fight be on the feet for the majority of this fight is why I'm going with Yanez. I think he's an excellent fighter, potential future champion as well. So I'm going with Yanez here.
Adrian Yanez minus 180. Hey, Ken-Flo.
Yes.
Does your hat say Deus as in God, like Deus de Geha?
Yes, exactly. It's Deus. I think it's the like Deus Ex Machina, as I think that's the reference. It's a brand out of Australia. I think it's more the Latin root of Deus. But yes, you are correct. It also means God in Portuguese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's actually one of my favorite hats of yours. And if the manufacturer is watching, he could probably use a new one. He's been wearing this one for many, many years. But you're not the type of guy who would wear a hat that says God on it, even though, we sort of, we have you in that divine air, at least on these airwaves. All right. So Rob Font has dropped a couple straight 5-rounders to Jose Aldo, December 2021, and then Chito Vera, April 2022. He finished his first 5 UFC wins. 3 of his last 4 wins have been by decision. Perhaps he goes submission hunting this weekend. Huge fight at 135 pounds. Brian Petrie, who do you have?
Kenny did a great job. Listen, I'm never going to besmirch or say a bad word about Rob Font because of what he's done in the octagon. The guy's excitement levels through the roof. You look at the Chito fight, he did well. He landed so many strikes, but Chito just kind of built different. And unfortunately, Rob Font got hit too much. Rob Font is a pure volume guy. He doesn't rely on power. He relies on volume and technique. Yanez relies on power. He has technique, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't throw as much as Rob Font because he has that power to hold him up. This is a typical power versus volume, young versus a veteran. I fucking love it. I love this. And I agree. Yanez was a guy coming off the Contender Series that I was like, oh shit, this is a little different, right? And then the Murderer's Row. He's been my golden goose since coming off the Contender Series. His one only small, and you can't even really call it a hiccup, was the Davey Grant fight, which was very close, but he still looked good. And Davey Grant's an absolute savage, right? But he's finishing everybody. And then you look at Rob Font, who's a great striker, who's been in there, has the better resume, has the better number, has the better ranking, has the more experience. But I don't know. I just think Yanez is just going to take it to him. Rob Font's never been knocked out before. I think he's getting knocked out. I think Yanez is he's got enough dynamite, enough power, enough technique to really catch Rob Font, who has great boxing, but does get touched quite a bit. And like Kenny said, his last 5 fights, he's been getting touched a lot. It's only a matter of time before that chin goes down. And when you fight a guy like Yanez, who's got big power, I'm going to lean on that as well, Yanez by KO. And another thing too, Adrian, you got enough on your plate, but I want to shout at you at Remember the Show. I know you're great on that show. Shout out Jason Nack, Bilal Muhammad. He's a wizard on that show, but I'm taking him down on that for sure. No doubt about it. But good luck this weekend, Yanez.
We got to get an Adrian Yanez, Brian Petrie head-to-head matchup on Remember the Show.
I want it.
When I was handicapping this fight, I was sort of thinking there should be a new rule for those ranked fighters. And I'm saying this loosely and not totally seriously. But if you're the higher ranked fighter and you're the underdog, you should have to fight the guy ranked number 15 in the world and not be able to necessarily protect that ranking. Now, Rob Font is number 6 in the world. Could have said, yeah, I just don't feel like fighting the number 12 guy in the world. And then the promoter could say, well, you're a 2-1 underdog against the number 12 guy in the world that's 5-0 in the UFC and all the rage right now. So maybe you got to fight him or we'll just flop you guys in the rankings. I know the rankings aren't the be all and the end all, and you could ask Bilal Muhammad and several others about all of that, but I don't know. I just feel like oftentimes when you have these matchups of fighters fighting down in the rankings, they're doing so as betting underdogs, which means that, I don't know, in a meritocracy, those guys should be getting those opportunities. All right. Co-headliner Kenny's going to lead us on this one as well, and then Brian will lead on the main event. Gilbert Burns, minus 475. The King of Miami, Jorge Masvidal, plus 380. Last win for Gamebred came against Nate Diaz, UFC 244 in 2019. Certainly got to think that plays into the price here, Kenny. Also, the fact that Masvidal is going to be 39 in November. Somewhat surprisingly, Burns is going to be 37 in July. 20th UFC appearance for Gilbert Durinho Burns, and he makes it as a huge betting favorite. Ken-Flo, Burns, Masvidal, under the lights. Miami-Dade Arena. We wish you could be there. You won't be there. You'll be with the PFL, so we need a pick. You're on mute.
Ay. All right, here we go. So this is interesting, man. If you look at the way that both these guys have performed lately, I thought Gilbert Burns, even in that loss against Khamzat Chimaev, I thought fought extremely well, proved a lot to himself and to all the fans who watched him that night as far as his heart, his ability to come back. Didn't get the win, of course, but fought valiantly throughout and gave Khamzat quite the challenge. Masvidal, I've been seeing a little bit of a decline. It's not all the time throughout, every round, but every once in a while he'll do something. I'll be like, if that was a few years ago, he would have thrown it a little faster. He would have reacted a little bit quicker to it. That is a bit of a concern. However, I think his ability to keep this one on the feet is being underestimated here. Colby, of course, was able to grind it out and keep a crazy pace. I think Gilbert's going to have to do something very similar to that. I just don't think Gilbert's got the same quality of wrestling that Colby Covington has, though. Doesn't mean he can't win that fight. I still think he can. And I think Masvidal's grappling is often underrated as well. Even the great Damian Maia wasn't able to finish him, was able to get some great positions on him. I think Gilbert Burns could do that as well. However, I think Masvidal is going to be much better prepared for Gilbert here. I also think that, he's a little bit better at staying defensively sound. There are times where Masvidal will throw himself off balance a little bit and can get countered. Gilbert Burns isn't quite the countering type. He's more the guy, I'm going to walk forward like a juggernaut and take your head off. That, I think, favors Masvidal in an odd way. I think that he'll be able to slip. I think he'll be able to move. He'll be able to evade and counter Gilbert Burns. I think he still has enough in the tank. It being 3 rounds is what's telling me to go with Masvidal. If it was 5 rounds, I'd probably be going with Burns. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of value here. I think people are underestimating Masvidal, and especially, John, you're talking about it being in Miami. I know he's got a lot of stuff going on. Do I believe that Masvidal isn't going to work hard and train hard for this fight in his city and possibly be embarrassed? Do I think that he is, content with the last couple of performances and, leaving his fans kind of waiting for that big performance? No, I think he's training hard for this. I think he's very prepared. I also think he sees a lot of value at the end of the tunnel with his history against Leon Edwards, and he realizes that time is now. Those things don't necessarily mean that he's going to go out there and win this fight, but it does mean that in my eyes, that he's going to work hard during this training camp to get that opportunity to fight for the belt again. And he knows he needs to get by a hungry Gilbert Burns to do it. It's a tough fight, but I think there's too much value there with Masvidal for me to ignore it. Going to go with Jorge Masvidal.
Masterfully done, Ken-Flo. Jorge Masvidal plus 380. And by the way, it took the UFC 20 years to get back to Miami. And all we've heard over the last 5 or 6 years that this is the guy that's going to get you back to Miami. And he did it. And obviously you heard Kenny and me weeks ago talk about just the bloated nature of this price. We're not even talking about Gilbert Burns, folks. We're talking about the number. We're not talking about the fighter. But the notion that Masvidal would not be elevated by this Miami backdrop is crazy. Yes, I mean, Gilbert Burns could be elevated too, right? Trains in Florida. He's got a ton of support down here as well. But dude, when Jorge Masvidal hits that tunnel in Miami, that's going to be the moment of the night. And I'm glad at least one of you sort of alluded to that fact in the handicap. Brian Petrie, we need a selection here. Gilbert Burns, Jorge Masvidal.
So this Kenny Florian guy's pretty good, huh? Yeah, he's pretty good with his handicapping. Last time they were in Miami, UFC 42, Rich Franklin debuted against Evan Tanner. Cincinnati legend Rich Franklin won that. Let's go. Listen, I tried a few times, a few different ways to break this fight down, right? I went the Yanni the Greek way. Let the stats speak for me. I went the Ohio drunk. Let the subconscious gut talk. None of this worked. Dead ends everywhere, right? I can't be a number guy all the time because the number on Masvidal is chef's kiss. It's beautiful. It really is. Most people want to write Masvidal off because of his 3-fight skid. He might have that silk sheet mentality. Got a couple M's in the bank now. Maybe he's not getting up for these fights, and Burns is a stud. You know what I mean? But we're in Miami. We're in 305. I watched a countdown show. Masvidal's using those M's in the bank. He's paying some different guys to train him. You know, I think this guy is going to be motivated here to come into a fight with Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns' last 2 wins, he looked flawless, dominate with the grappling over Wonderboy Thompson, Neil Magny. Then he went and fought that wolf that no one wanted to fight, dropped him, made him look human. Some people thought he won, very close fight, but Burns is a real dude. But Masvidal at his best is throwing combinations. He's very explosive. He needs to work both hands at all times in this fight because the way to beat Gilbert Burns is to hit him. Right? You need to walk through him. You need to hit him. He's been knocked out before. He's been bullied before. He's been dropped before. Burns is going to wrestle. I think everyone knows that. 74% takedown defense for Masvidal. I think that doesn't indicate how good he was before those last 3 fights. The Usman fight, he got him down 5 times. Second fight, he got him down twice. Colby got him down 6. But he's never been submitted except, I believe John was on the call, Toby Amata, reverse triangle. Last time he was submitted. So I don't see that being a problem on the ground. And I was going to go Masvidal. That was my rabbit out of the hat, Mr. 4-point swing. But since Kenny went like that, we're playing a game and none of my tricks gave me answers. The stats didn't speak to me. I'm going to go Burns by decision. I'll eat the chalk with Burns. This is a very competitive fight. I can't wait for it to happen. But I'll go opposite. I'll go Burns by decision.
All right, Gilbert Burns minus 475. And it is amazing to think back to season 1 of Bellator in 2009. Jorge Masvidal competed on the first Bellator 1, which was the first time I ever called a mixed martial arts fight. That was his 20th pro MMA fight. And then when he got to the UFC, he had 30 fights. Right?
And
crazy.
That was our submission of the year on MMA Live. Remember that? Toby Amata, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're getting Masvidal with a submission is to choke him completely unconscious or maybe to snap an arm.